Good evening. We're very happy and very fortunate to have this young lady here with us this evening. She'll certainly take some questions as usual.
In the mic.
What? The mic's not, is not registered? Huh?
You got to get close.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Anyhow, Katie Burnhart is her name, and she is here today as a volunteer representative of the Foster Campbell candidate for Louisiana United States Senate. Katie, a long-time resident of Lafayette, a recent graduate of LSU Law School, married and proud mother of two young children. Recently elected Louisiana Democrat State Central Committee member and co-chairperson of the 3rd Congressional District Democratic Caucus. We welcome her to our meeting and request that she consider joining our CCGG membership for this upcoming year. I just might mention that her father was very, very active in this community. John, he passed away some 4 years ago, and most of us, we concerned citizens, knew him quite well. So we appreciate the daughter of John being with us this evening, and we thank you for this.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm thrilled to be here, and thank you for that introduction. I hope that I can answer all your questions. I've really enjoyed getting to volunteer for Foster Campbell and getting to know him, and I'm proud to have him running for office in our state. Frank, do you have some questions for me?
Let me ask you this. Simple. Why is it that you're supporting Foster Campbell?
Well, there's a number of reasons I'm supporting Foster. I guess the one that I get fired up the most about these days are women's issues. Being a working mom of 2 young children, Foster's one of the few candidates that I really believe connects with all working people, particularly working women. He's aware of the pay discrepancy and is committed to fighting for equal pay for women, as well as family leave. He understands that without child care, you can pay us the same, but if we can't go to work, it's not really going to do us much good. So he's committed to taking care of those issues and addressing them, which I'm certainly a big proponent of.
The Foster lives up in Bossier City, in Bossier Parish, and most of the people in Southwest Louisiana really don't know where that is. I know from reading the materials that he's been a school teacher in his early career. He's a former cattleman or rancher, whatever. And that he has a small business and has had a small business for over 20 years in Oak Grove, or right up there, right outside of Shreveport. But there are a lot of people that want to know as to, what is his position and how strongly does he feel about being pro-life or pro-choice. I'll ask you, what is his position on that issue? And thank you.
So I start with the tough ones. Although I can't speak for Foster personally, it's my understanding that Foster is unapologetically pro-life, that he will evaluate all Supreme Court nominees based on all sorts of criteria, including that one, and that he's not just pro-birth, that he's truly pro-life, unlike his opponent, which means that he supports raising the minimum wage, equal pay for women, paid family leave. He respects the decision of the Supreme Court on these issues, but he is pro-life.
Is Foster Campbell environmental friendly, and can we be assured that if he's elected to the United States Senate that he'll do everything he can to protect our clean water, clean air, and our coastline here in Louisiana?
Foster is definitely very much a friend of the environment. That are he's committed to protecting and restoring the coast, which is home to a $20 billion industry in the state. He will advocate for coastal preservation and funds in Congress to fully fund the Coastal Master Plan, which includes the utilization of coastal restoration funding to grow jobs here in Louisiana, on the coast, and throughout the state. He's also in favor of fighting to advance science-based policies that will produce real solutions for our coast.
Do you know if Foster has been endorsed by the Sierra Club?
I do not know if Foster has been endorsed by the Sierra Club, but I can find out.
Please let us know. Now, Foster Campbell was a state senator at one time, and he claims that he's an educational advocate. And I know that he's been a school teacher a good while back, but do you have any evidence or any proof or any information that can show us that he is committed to promoting education in Louisiana for everyone?
Yes, Foster is most definitely committed to education, and in fact, as a state senator, Foster created a $1 billion education excellence fund using Louisiana's tobacco settlement funds. This funded public schools across the state and continues to fund them to this day. The money from it goes to classrooms all over and is also funding the TOPS program, which we've heard a lot about lately. He was also a school teacher and is aware of the issues in the schools and very committed to addressing those and making sure Louisiana schools receive all the funding that they need for the long term.
We'd like, for any questions that you may have as opposed to making a presentation. You're interested in a particular race, you're interested in parties that will be representing us here. So if you have some special questions that you may be at this time to ask her, hopefully she can answer them. And if not, we'll go from there. Mr. Jim, he always asks for a professor from UL, so he can ask the right kind of questions. You can go right into it.
I'll try to speak into it. I guess my questions have to do with issues that we've just seen in our national election. I would like to know on two important issues on tax reform at the federal level and also on global warming. If you have anything to add on those two issues, I would like to hear that.
Again, I'm going to try my best. I'm just a campaign volunteer, but I do know that Foster does believe in global warming, and he's committed to working with scientists to adequately address problems with the environment relating to our coast and our entire state, which is being affected by the changes in the climate. I do not know anything about his tax reform. But I am happy to ask the campaign any questions I can and get those answers back to y'all.
tell us a story until I get up there. First of all, I want to thank so many of you, especially Marlene, for her kind gesture in sending me that card with all the autographs on it. That is a treasure, and I will value that for the rest of my short life.
We're great to see you back.
I have some questions, rather pragmatic, if you will, for working people issues. I'm concerned about the walls. The reason I'm asking these questions is because I have been looking at some commercials that are stating these facts. I want to know how he feels about the walls in Mexico to keep the illegal immigrants out, his position on Obamacare, the immigration situation, what's his stance on that. And I understand that he is not for the Second Amendment. I don't know, I'm just asking questions. But these are certainly 4 issues that I'm concerned about, so I would appreciate it if you have any information for us. And thanks again, everybody.
Okay, thank you for those questions. As far as healthcare goes, my understanding is that as a U.S. Senator, Foster would be an additional vote against the privatization of Medicare. He has championed anti-privatization of government programs, and that would continue into the Senate. I know that he would also fight to any privatization of Social Security as well. I don't know exactly what his plan would be or proposition would be for the Affordable Care Act, but it is my understanding that he would want to fix the problems and address the problems with the legislation, opposed to getting rid of it in its entirety, because it does provide for a number of positive things, such as the no pre-existing condition exclusion, and being able to keep children on policies and things of that nature. But I can get more information from the campaign, more detailed explanation on those subjects. Let me see, as far as the Second Amendment goes, Foster is from North Louisiana. He's an avid hunter and gun owner. He most certainly supports citizens' constitutional rights to legally own firearms, but he does not support the illegal possession of guns by convicted felons. And is certainly a proponent of keeping illegal weapons out of the hands of criminals. The other questions were on the
Wall and immigration.
I'm not sure of his stance on immigration or the wall. Haven't heard him discuss the wall at all.
Ask him about illegal immigration. That's what I'm concerned about.
I will try to get the campaign to issue some statements on these issues tomorrow and email them out to the group to answer these questions more fully when I'm not able to.
By the way, is he a Democrat or a Republican?
He is a Democrat, lifelong Democrat, and still a Democrat.
Thank you.
Sure, come on up.
Okay, I didn't know that.
He advocates raising the minimum wage, correct?
Correct.
Does he have a specific number, like raise it to a certain level? Is he one of those that says raise it to $15 an hour?
I'm not sure that there's a particular level. I have not heard him mention a particular number, but I do know that he is for raising the minimum wage and is keenly aware of all of the issues that face small businesses and isn't committed to finding a solution that works for everyone, that's fair to all the working people in the state of Louisiana.
The question is, what would you say are his main accomplishments during his career as a public servant? And of these, which of them impressed you the most? How did you happen to come to be a supporter of Foster Campbell?
Well, that's a really long list, which is a great thing. I'm certainly not an expert on his entire voting history because he has a lifetime in service in Louisiana. He's been on the Public Service Commission for many years, and I know that in that position he has fought for working people and fair policies and making sure consumers are protected. I appreciate that as someone who's done something as simple as just sitting on the phone on hold with companies trying to get things accomplished, or trying to have a relative that calls me and said, well, I don't know if you know this, but I had called Foster Campbell because I had a power line down, a phone line, as it turns out. They believed it was a power line across their property, which was in a bayou, and they had been calling for years trying to get the company to fix it, and they were not able to get the company to fix it since they purchased the property, in fact. And finally, there was a storm that came through and knocked it in the water, and she was just terrified that boats were going to hit it and someone was going to get seriously injured. So she called Foster Campbell, and the next day, someone was out to fix it. And this was long before the Senate race, and but it did come up recently. They let me know that, hey, there really is some serious consumer protection going on and effectiveness in his role in that office. And that's just one of many stories that I've gotten to hear from individuals. He's not afraid to stand up to anyone for the working man and for people who deserve a voice. And I know that in Washington that'll be very valuable to have someone that's unapologetic about his views and will stand up for principles that are right for this state, regardless of any impression it gives anyone. He's a man of his convictions.
Any other questions?
Do you have another? Let me ask you this. Being doing reasonably well.
Can't hear you.
Well, could you give us just
Speak up, Carol.
microphone?
Get in the mic, Carol.
In other words, if you would, be so kind, and give us, that you know him reasonably well, give a presentation, as to what you feel that this gentleman can do for us. I know him personally, I've met him before as well. I do know and I feel like he's a public servant, and he's involved and has tried to do a lot of good things, in that position. I know that. But if there's some other things that you may know about him as to him being the right guy for that function.
Again, this is purely just my opinion, but the one thing that I've been so impressed with Foster is that I feel like he understands the position of normal folks in Louisiana, and I feel like many of our politicians seem very disconnected from what it's like to be a middle-class working person in the state of Louisiana. And that connection and connectivity to our citizens in various positions in life, whether they're retirees that are depending on their Social Security, or they're moms that are looking for work because their husbands are out of jobs in the oil field, or they are students struggling to work and avoid large amounts of student debt. he connects with Louisianians on a personal level because he's been a normal working man in the state of Louisiana his entire life, and he's represented people in our state and taken the time to listen to their stories and address their concerns and fight for those concerns and solutions to them. So I think that's the part about Foster that I appreciate, that I know that he's not going to get to Washington and not be able to take my phone call. He's not going to Washington to help his friends out. He's going to Washington to represent every single one of us in this state. And I've been in the room. I grew up with a dad who was involved in politics, so I got to sit in plenty of political meetings and listen to speakers and meet a lot of these elected officials as I grew up. And Foster seems like someone that I could sit down and have a meal with and be completely comfortable. And I think most people who've met him and know him feel that way. And I think that's important in our Senate, that we can have someone that we can genuinely talk to, that has time for us, and that cares about the way we live our daily life.
Katie, I'm going to tell you a little story. Years ago, my friend John Burnhart, who was in law school with me, and that's your dad, he came to one of our Democratic state local executive committee meetings, and he was there to educate us on the Lafayette Fiber Initiative. Now, John came with lots of information, and I suspect he got it from Cox Communication and Bell South Mobility. And he was very well received at our meeting, but our committee was really in favor of the Lafayette Fiber Initiative. And I know John wasn't really too happy with us, but at the time, our Democratic Executive Committee joined hands with the Republican Executive Committee of the entire parish, but on the Fiber Initiative. And we were supportive, hand in hand, of Joey Durrell, Republican Joey Durrell's Fiber Initiative, because we believe that the Fiber Initiative, the LUS Fiber Initiative, was a really good thing for Lafayette. Now, after the initial vote of the public, that was a starting point, and this LUS Fiber Initiative went to the Public Service Commission. And at that time, Foster Campbell was chairman of the committee, the Public Service Commission. And we appreciated, although John didn't appreciate it, your dad didn't appreciate it, but we, both Democrats and Republicans here in Lafayette, appreciated that Foster Campbell moved forward and expedited the passing of that legislation, even though there was strong opposition from AT&T, Verizon, Cox Communication, and many other strong lobbying groups. And that's when I think of John, I think of that Fiber Initiative, but he later became chairman of our committee despite his opposition to the fiber. But I want to let you know about that.
I think that that's a great point, because that's one of the things that when I think of Foster, that he would want everyone, no matter where they live, no matter their income level, to have access to education, and the internet provides that. And I think that was a great part of the success of that initiative, was that it allowed many people who would not otherwise have access to the internet to have internet in their neighborhoods. So I think that that's right up Foster's alley, is helping gain access to knowledge and an equal opportunity for everyone, regardless of where they live in the state. You don't have to get up. I heard that. I was going to say, are there any other questions?
What about term limits?
I do know the answer to that one. Foster is for term limits, and he recently said that he would be willing to work with the president-elect on that subject and on any subject that he agrees with him on.
How long was it, Congressman?
I'm not sure how long.
It seemed to be for term limits. If he's
He
been
wasn't a
for-
congressman, he wasn't a congressman,
What was it?
he was a state senator.
The state senator, yeah.
But he is, it's my understanding that he is a proponent of term limits for our legislatures. I can probably say a few more words about, yeah. Okay, I do have a few more notes that I was given on different things that Foster, different views that he has, and I can certainly name off a couple of those. Although we have covered quite a few of them. In fact, we've actually covered all of them, which is kind of funny. But I think there was one question of how I got to know Foster, and I got to know him when I was, I think, 18 years old, an eager volunteer because I was a political science major in college. So I jumped on his gubernatorial campaign and worked in his office there in Baton Rouge and asked lots of questions and answered a lot of phones, which is what I mostly do at the campaign headquarters today. But I've been very glad to be here, and again, I'm happy to get any further explanations of questions that I wasn't able to provide today. I can give you guys an email address, and you can email in any questions, and I can send a mass email out to all of the group members addressing any additional concerns you have. I also have a couple yard signs and some rack cards and stickers here if any of y'all are interested in taking those. It also has a little bit more information on his stances on various subjects. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Katie, for coming over here. I know it's great for us to have a volunteer that comes forward and gives us the information we need, and God bless you. And we appreciate your follow-up on the ones where you need a little bit more information on. So thank you again. Appreciate it very much.
Mark your calendars. We'll certainly have a speaker there as well. We're getting down to the end of the year, and we'll be talking about doing a little bit of recruiting for next year, if you will. Thank you all very much, and the meeting stands adjourned.